Donald Trump received the president of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele, at the Oval Office today, where they were discussing deportation, terrorism, and tariffs that affect both countries, but rather than the leaders engaging in a tussle, which is the usual thing at these Oval Office sessions. President Trump's aim was none other than CNN reporter Kaitlan Collins, who was torn to shreds by Trump in his administration after posing a very strange question about the deportation of an alleged terrorist to El Salvador. Brought back the man that your administration maintains was erroneously deported. The man erroneously deported to El Salvador. Well, let me ask, ma'am, would you request to respond to that question? Sure, President. First, and above all, he was illegally in our nation. He had illegally been in our nation. And in 2019, two courts, an immigration court and an appellate. Immigration court determined that he was an MS-13 member, and he was illegally in our nation today. It was paperwork. It was extra paperwork needed to be completed. That's on El Salvador. If they want to send him back, that's not in our hands. The Supreme Court decided, President, that if, as El Salvador wishes to send him back, this is international affairs, foreign relations. If they wish to send him back, we would make it happen. Meaning supply a plane, and you're doing a tremendous job. Thank you, wait a minute. Could you just also answer that question because, it's asked by CNN, and they always ask it with a slant. Because they're totally slanted, because they don't know what's happening. That's why nobody's watching them. But would you answer that question also? Yes? Gladly. So as Pam mentioned, there's an illegal alien from El Salvador. So with respect to you, he's a citizen of El Salvador. So it's very arrogant, even for American media, to hypothesize that we would even instruct El Salvador on how to treat their own citizens as a baseline, as two immigration courts determined that he was a member of MS-13, when President Trump branded MS-13 as a foreign terrorist organization that made him no longer eligible under federal law, which I'm sure you're very familiar with the INA, that he was no longer eligible for any type of immigration relief in the United States. So we had a deportation order that was active, which meant that according to our law, he's not even permitted to be here in the United States and had to be sent back because of the foreign terrorist designation. This problem was then, by a district court judge, completely flipped, and a district court judge attempted to inform the administration that they must kidnap a citizen of El Salvador and transport him back here. That issue was brought to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court stated the district court ruling was illegal, and its key elements were overturned 90 unanimously, stating unequivocally that neither Secretary of State nor the President could be forced by anyone to forcibly recover a citizen of El Salvador from El Salvador, who once again is a member of MS-13, which is, I'm sure you are aware, rapes little girls, murders, women murders. Children is involved in the most heinous activities on this earth. And I can guarantee you, if he was your neighbor, you would leave immediately. And after the Trump regime was through with roasting her, the president of El Salvador added insult to injury, declaring the question preposterous. Can President Bukele have anything to say about this? Do you intend to bring him back? Well, it was quite clear that I should smuggle a terrorist into the United States, right? How do I smuggle? How do I bring him back to America? Such as, could I smuggle him into America? Or what do I do? Of course, I'm not going to do it. It's like, the question is ridiculous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into America? I don't have the authority to send him back to America, but you can let him go inside of another. Yeah, but I'm not letting... we're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our nation. We just made the murder capital of the world, the safest nation in the Western Hemisphere. And you want us to return to releasing criminals, so we can return to being the murder capital of the world. And that's not going to occur. Well, they'd love to have a criminal, brought up into... there's a fascination. They would love it. Yeah, sick. These are sick people, Mark. Do you have something to say? Yeah, Stephen, I don't get it. What the confusion is, this person is a citizen of El Salvador. He was illegally in the United States and was sent back to his country. That's where you send people back to their country of origin. Except for Venezuela, that wasn't not taking people back of places like that. I can tell you this, Mr. President. No, the foreign policy of the United States is carried out by the President of the United States, not by a court. And no court in the United States has the right to carry out the foreign policy of the United States. It's that simple end of story. Online commentators enjoyed Collins' demolition with this individual stating, "The only problem here is that a few more admin members didn't get their turn to rip this hack." And other commentators went so far as to say, Kaitlan Collins ought to lose her White House press secretary. Past this person said, if the White House takes away CNN propagandist Kaitlan Collins' press, past her ill manners should not be rewarded. President Bukele and Donald Trump had an extremely warm and fruitful meeting in the Oval Office, even after Kaitlan Collins' question that threw a wrench in the discussion for a bit. Bukele went on to deliver Trump some words of wisdom on cleaning up criminals, saying, "You must jail criminals so that you can free the innocent people," which Trump adored. We're very happy and we're very keen to assist. We understand that you have a crime issue, a terrorism issue that you require assistance with, and we're a small nation. But if we can assist, we can do it. And we actually made murder capital of the world. That was the call, right? Murder capital of the world to the safest country in the world. And, they sometimes say that we increase thousands. I like to say that we actually, it's very good who gave him that line. Do you think I can use that, President Bukele? Then went further, congratulating Trump and his administration for closing the borders, but he couldn't help but take a dig at the mainstream media, which Trump welcomed to what they've done to us at the border, should never and can never be forgotten. It's a sin, what they did, and you are helping us out, and we appreciate it. Thanks. Thank you. Actually, what you're doing with the border is remarkable. He has dropped, 95%? It's incredible. As of this morning, 99%, 99.1% to be exact. Why are those numbers not in the media? Well, they get out with the false news, such as CNN over here, does not want to release them because they do not like releasing good numbers. They only like releasing because I believe they despise our country, really. And after the meeting, Trump's senior advisor, Stephen Miller, was not finished, rebuking Kaitlan Collins' allegations, doubling down on Fox News to dispel the mainstream media allegation that the terrorist was mistakenly deported. Correct, I do not like to do it, Bill. But I had to correct you on every single thing you said, because it was all wrong. First, we won the Supreme Court case. Clearly, a district court judge said unconscionably that the president and his administration must go into El Salvador and extradite one of their citizen, an El Salvadorian citizen. So that would be kidnapping, that we must kidnap an El Salvadorian citizen against the will of his government and transport him back to America. That would be an unthinkable act and an invasion of El Salvador sovereignty. So he brought it to the Supreme Court, and it stated flatly, no district court has the authority to force the president to invoke his Article 2 foreign prerogatives in any manner whatsoever. DOJ called me subsequently that Supreme Court ruling, and they informed me that this is great. We won the case, 90. We stand in great esteem here. So this has been mischaracterized for 72 hours in the media. They mentioned the most that a court could ever get you to do would be to enable return, which would essentially mean if El Salvador voluntarily returns him, we wouldn't bar him at the airport. We would place him back into ICE detention, and then he would be deported either to El Salvador or somewhere else. The Supreme Court stated that is the most the government can be expected to do. So we won the case handily. The misreporting on this has been atrocious. Secondly, he was not important.